things about spiritual wellness so far has been that every week we have a guest teacher come in. Her name is Tasha, and she has a master's in counseling psychology, and she specializes in Gestalt therapy as well as psycho-spiritual orientations. So basically, she is teaching us about different energy healing modalities, which I really like. I'm super into it. During our afternoons with Tasha, we've been doing some pretty funky stuff, and she's been helping us to get in touch with our own energy and how our energy works within our own body, as well as how it connects us to everyone and everything around us. So most of her work is done based on the idea that we are all energetically connected on a vertical plane. So up vertical into this greater energetic space above us, and then it goes down in through the tops of all of our heads, which allows us to stay interconnected but also centered and in control of our own energetic being. However, within this system, we can also form unhealthy horizontal connections from ourselves to another person or thing. These connections do not necessarily serve us well because they prevent us from being truly energetically independent, and there's always a giving and a taking of something that we feel like we are lacking or the other person needs. So we end up forming these relationships that can be dependent or dominating or just like overly attached. So this week we went on a journey to try to find what some of the strongest horizontal connections were that we had in our own lives with other people, and then we had a cord cutting ceremony in which we chopped those connections. It was really cool. We started with an energetic shakeout, which is exactly what it sounds. We just shook our bodies. We closed our eyes and we just shook and sounded and moved in whatever ways our bodies felt like they wanted to move in that time. The goal was to just get out of our heads, stop thinking, not worry about what we looked like, and really just listen to and get in touch with what our bodies wanted and needed in that moment. So the purpose of this also is just to get the energy flowing more smoothly and freely throughout our bodies, because as I've mentioned in other videos, we can have emotions that get stuck up in our physical systems as well as energy. So doing the shakeout really helps to free some of those blockages. Even after just 10 minutes of shaking out to this wild tribal music that Tasha put on, people were having emotional reactions come up. There were tears, there were roars of anger, there were screams and laughter. There was just tons of stuff happening in the room all at the same time. It was pretty wild. We were then asked to picture someone standing in front of us and not to think about it too much, just like, bam, what's your first hit? Bring someone up. Lots of people had their parents show up, shocker. I personally had my boyfriend come up in front of me, and so that's what I went with. We were then asked to lean in and sort of sense into how we were horizontally connected to this person. So for me personally, I saw or sensed, I don't really know which one, a connection coming from my belly up into his chest. So that would be my solar plexus chakra up into his heart center. So what I make that mean is that my self-esteem or my independence, my sense of self and my self-worth, I have connected to his love for me, I assume. I don't really like the way that that sounds. In fact, it's like everything the opposite of what I want or try to be as a woman. To me, I make that sound like needy or desperate or dependent or submissive, and I don't like any of that, but that's what came up for me, so I went with it. We really felt into that process, and Tasha took us through a few different steps, but eventually we were asked to, in our own way and when we were ready, to cut the cord with that person. And so I actually did that. I just went like that. Other people chose maybe to just have it dissolve, or they just swiped it, or I don't know. I had my eyes closed. We all had our eyes closed. So we all just did our own thing, and then we really breathed in to our own energy, which is coming in on the vertical, tried to ignore the horizontal and just center ourselves this way. If you were a fly on the wall in this process, honestly, we all probably looked a little bit insane, but it was so much fun and it was so liberating. I shouldn't say fun because it was pretty emotional. It was a pretty intense experience, but afterwards I felt light, I felt liberated, I did feel more independent. I also feel more like I have my own voice, and I have found that since the process I haven't been nearly as concerned about compromising my own needs for the sake of my relationship needs. I know that could all just be in my head because I wanted the process to work, but regardless, I'm enjoying it, so again, I'm just gonna roll with it. This type of work is definitely not for everyone, and Rhodes does a very good job as presenting it as an option that you can have, and if it doesn't really jive or it's not your cup of tea, then you're more than welcome to leave it. You don't have to use that going forward in your own journey or in your journey as a counselor with your clients. That is all I have for you today for a little lesson with a touch of insight. I would encourage you to kind of try to sense into what some of your own horizontal connections might be with other people in your life, and how then you might be able to go about. If you have any questions about it, feel free to message me on Facebook and I can send you more information on chakras or anything else that has maybe piqued your interest in this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next week.